Hello and welcome to Simplified on PowerDrift, where we take complicated ideas and break them down into something small, bite-sized that you can use in your life with motorcycles. Today we're talking about the types of petrol that you can put in your motorcycle. And before we go ahead, there's 4 types of buttons we'd like you to hit. This one, the share button, the bell notification icon, and the subscribe. And see how I switched the order and confused everybody? That's not what we do with Simplified. So, types of fuel. The reason why there is confusion about the types of fuel starts at the octane number. And honestly, the larger the octane number, it simply means that this fuel is harder to burn. Now, I know that sounds backwards, right? All you want to do in your motorcycle is burn fuel, have larger explosions, go faster, and you're saying that better octane numbers like 100, 106 are harder to burn and they're better for your motorcycle. How does that work? Well, what the octane number actually says is that the fuel is harder to burn automatically. So if I take petrol, add air, I make something that can burn, right? Now there's 2 ways to actually burn this. One of them is to take a match and throw it into this mixture, and obviously it will ignite. If there is petrol but no oxygen, nothing's going to happen. If there's oxygen and no petrol, nothing's going to happen either, right? But I can also do this, is take petrol, take air and start compressing this mixture. And if I compress it enough, at some point the petrol will ignite and use oxygen to have the chemical reaction that we call combustion. What octane number says is that the bigger the octane number is, the later this event will happen. And this is important because what I want to do inside an internal combustion engine is to control when the combustion happens, because the position of the piston at that point is super crucial. And if I do it right, I will have all the forces I generate go down the piston through the crank to the rear wheel and generate torque and motion. And when I have fuels with low octane numbers, which can ignite before all of this, it's badly timed, and more importantly, because there are a series of uncontrolled explosions, which we know as knocking or pinking, these explosions can also physically damage your engine and you don't want it. And that's why it's probably always better to run a higher octane fuel than a lower octane fuel. But the thing is, engineers design vehicles to use specific kinds of octane fuels. So if your vehicle, for example, says 91 octane is okay, you're not going to get a huge benefit by putting 99 octane into it. That will not make your vehicle faster. Because this fuel is better, it might have smoother combustion, you might get the feeling of easier acceleration, but it will not be faster acceleration, it will be a smoother running, cleaner running vehicle. You might even get a small advantage in fuel economy, but it will not be enough to justify the price difference that you paid for the extra octane, right? So from that perspective, whatever your vehicle is rated for, if it's rated for 95 octane clean, good fuel is all you really need to get the maximum performance from this vehicle. The situation where higher octane becomes more useful is when you start changing the engine around. So if you're tuning your engine, trying to extract more performance from it, that's when a higher octane number will help, because remember, the more strain I put in the engine, it's usually done by compressing the petrol and air mixture harder. The harder I compress it, the more the chances that it will do its own ignition thing rather than wait for the spark plug to fire. In that situation, having a higher octane number fuel will help you, and that's why racers and drag racers tend to use octane boosters and other ways to increase the octane content of their fuels. You and me, driving regular cars or motorcycles, are not really going to see a benefit from it. Worse, most naturally aspirated engines just don't see the benefit of octane boosting at all. That's reserved for turbocharged engines. And in that sense, if your engine is naturally aspirated, and if you're on a motorcycle it 100% is today, adding octane boosters or putting high octane fuels is not automatically going to change anything. It's not a way to extract more performance from that engine. That's one. Second is, now you get multiple types of fuel, right? There's the base fuel grade, and then there's like the Shell V-Power, the Speed, the Power, and all of these. Remember, they have the same octane number almost all of the time as your base fuel. Again, these fuels will not give you a performance benefit. What the manufacturer is adding to these fuels more or less is detergents and cleaning agents, which can help clean up the fuel lines, clean up the sludge around the spark plug, clean up the carbon deposits around the engine, and that could be a positive effect of using these kind of fuels. So if you put speed into your car or power into your car, it's not going to go faster. But 30,000 kilometers later, you might get a cleaner engine out of it. So when you go to overhaul your engine, you'll find a cleaner engine, and any performance degradation that has come from the accumulation of these deposits might be slowed down. But the thing to remember is that your user manual will tell you if your vehicle is ready to have additives in its fuel or not. To give you an example, both my Aprilia and my Ducati manuals clearly state that you will run minimum 91 RON, but you will not add any additives to this fuel, and I've tried it. Every time I've been forced to put speed or power into my multistrada, it runs rougher than it would with normal clean pump gas. right? Then comes the question of should you be using an octane booster at all? And I think by now the answer should be obvious. The higher the compression ratio on your vehicle is, the more it can use octane boosters to generate a benefit. But most of our vehicles don't hit the 12-13:1 kind of compression ratios where octane boosting does actually do some amount of work. So most of us, if you were to put a good octane booster in your tank, you would feel that the engine runs smoother but will not go any harder. If you were to tune your engine, which means raising the compression ratio, changing the cams around and all of that, in that event, octane boosting might be of some advantage. The final thing is cost. Obviously, the cheapest fuel is 91 RON. The most expensive fuel, I think when Indian Oil launched 100 XP, which is their 100 octane fuel, I'm going to say 2 years ago, it was 160 rupees to a litre when base fuel was only 90. Do you want to pay the delta? If you have a Lamborghini that can actually make use of 100 octane, sure, you should. But if you have a Maruti Alto or a Celerio or even a Kia Sonet, it's not going to make any difference. On the Multistrada, I have tried 99 octane. The bike ran smoother, but it didn't run any faster. And that brings us to the question of should you be spending money on octane boosters? I looked up on Amazon. The average octane booster bottle is about 500 rupees and it goes into a full tank of gas. That's for a car. So which means you'll spend 500 over, let's say, 3 tanks of gas on a motorcycle, in the average motorcycle. Ask yourself, is it worth it? Because what I would say is that in India, fuel prices are already high. There's no reason to add octane boosters to this at all. Octane boosters do have one positive side effect, which is they do have cleaning agents. So when you use octane booster in your fuel tank, it will clean your fuel lines a little bit, it will clean up the injectors and stuff. So maybe for that benefit, if you want to use an octane booster once a year, maybe there's a benefit to it. But in every other situation, whatever octane number your vehicle is rated for is the octane number that you should be using. What we are not covering in this episode are other types of fuels like E10, which is 10% ethanol, or E85, which is 85% ethanol, and the gamut in the middle, because that's a discussion for another time. But the fundamental thing I'm going to leave you with is this. You need to have clean fuel in your petrol tank. The RON number, the octane number of this fuel needs to match whatever the vehicle specification says as recommended or must have. Whatever that number is, 91, 95, 99, that's all you need. If you're going to give it more octane numbers than this, effectively you're buying a cleaner grade of fuel so the vehicle might feel like it runs better. And if that you think is worth the money, certainly go for it. There's nothing negative to it, but don't expect a boost of octane to give you a boost of performance, because that's not how it works. Thank you so much for watching. This is Simplified on PowerDrift, where we take complicated ideas and break them down into something simple that you can use in your daily life. If you'd like to discuss this further, leave us a comment. If there's other topics that Simplified should be attacking, do leave us a comment as well. I invite you now to subscribe, bell notification icon, thumbs up, and show this video to your friends. And if you have friends who have octane boosters in their bikes and they're going faster than you, it's not the octane boosting, it's them.